Okay. Ooh. Hello, Caro.
Hi, Laura.
Buenos dias. Thank you so much
Buenas.
for joining.
Thank you for
We
having
both
me.
have our cacao.
Yes.
Because we met in a cacao circle. I met Flo at our mutual friend at the assemblage last year, and she invited me to daily virtual cacao circles, and that's where I met you, Caro. We were in a small group together, and I noticed this mushroom painting behind her, and I'm obsessed with mushrooms. And she said that she painted it, and something inside of me awakened. Which I'll get into during our conversation, but I just really, really wanted to talk to you more about what you're doing. And when I saw your Instagram and the art that you created, I was blown away. It's just on a different level of magic. So thank you so much for being on.
Thank you. Thank you for saying all those beautiful things. I'm excited to be here with you. I loved that small cacao virtual circle we met at. And I'm looking forward also meeting you IRL. I'm pretty sure we'll meet soon, hopefully. And I just can't wait to get to know you more. I also I attended the circle that you and Flo hosted together at the Cacao Virtual Circles. It was such a treat to experience your magic firsthand.
Thank you so much. So I like to start from the beginning, actually. I know you're Peruvian. Where did you grow up? And let's start there.
Awesome. So I'm from Peru, yes. I grew up in Lima, and I lived in Peru until I was 23. And actually, both my family from mom and dad's side are from the jungle in Peru. So as a kid and growing up, me and my sister would always go back visiting our grandparents, visiting my dad once he moved back there. And I believe that there's when all this like interest about nature started for me. And at 23, when I finished art school in Peru, I moved to New York. I had been a US resident since I was 9. So we were always coming and going in order not to lose the residency. And I had already been to the city, and you know, there's something about New York that just catches your eye and your heart. And I really wanted to move here for a year. So I thought I was going to stay here for a year doing some studies on drawing and photography, which was my interest at the moment. But 1 year has turned into almost 7. And I'm still here, still learning, still creating, also missing nature so much, but also seeing that there's this ability that we have to bring what we're always looking for to our lives. So even though I'm in Brooklyn and it's like such a concrete jungle, then again, I'm surrounded by nature with plants and cats and just, you know, all this beautiful nature that is available for us in our own bodies as well. And also keeping my daily rituals is something that has helped along the way in order to keep this like nature spark awakened on me.
So what did you want to be when you went to art school? Did you want to be an artist, like a traditional way of like painting and drawing?
So it's pretty interesting because I finished high school and my older sister, she's an artist. And for some reason, I don't know if this was from my parents or just my own programming, I thought that she had permission to be an artist, but I had to be something else. And even though growing up, especially because of my sister, I was always so connected to art, painting and drawing. We would all of our free time, we were not using Barbies. We were like painting our own dolls. It was such an amazing thing to grow up with her, but I finished high school, and when I started college, I went for management for a year. And for me, it was just this unchallenging career. I didn't feel that energy and spark and rush and passion while going to management school. And after a year, I thought I wanted to do something related to arts, but I was also negating myself. So I went for industrial design. And hopefully in the art school that I went to, you need to take introductions to every art career. So you need to do introduction for sculpture, introduction for painting. And the day that I took my first introduction to printmaking, I felt like a kid again. I feel that it was the first time I ever permitted myself to play. And I even felt that I wasn't permitting myself to play as a kid as much as I felt creative in that printmaking class. And growing up, I was someone pretty controlling. I would schedule everything. I would have like everything mapped out, and I would always know where I was heading, what was the objective. But after stepping into this printmaking class for the first time, I just said, fuck it, I need to do this. I don't know what a printmaker is. I don't know what they do in their day-to-day life. I don't know how they earn money, but for the first time ever, I don't care. And I enrolled in printmaking. My dad didn't know I was in art school for the first 3 years I was in art school. My mom told me I was making a mistake for the first year that I went to art school, even though my sister was already an artist. But even though I just felt this passion and this intuitive feeling that I had never been connected to, and this just drive me crazy. And that's when it all actually started. I wasn't sure why I was even enrolled there, but I just had this huge intuition in me that this is what I was meant to do.
Oh, that just resonates so much for me. I wanted to go to art school after college. For college. I don't know if you know the Rhode Island School of Design, RISD, but that was
Yes.
my dream school, but my parents said no. So I've always like secretly wanted to be an artist. But again, like my parents too, they were like, you'll never make any money.
Right.
But what kind of style, what kind of style of art were you making at that time with printmaking? Was it like what you're doing now?
So what I loved about art school is all the different assignments they would leave us, and also, of course, teaching us all the different supplies that we could use. And even though I wasn't doing the exact type of artwork that I'm doing today visually, I was always tapping into these themes. So for every assignment, let's say they would leave us an assignment on human body, and most people in my class would do self-portraits, portraits of family members, and I would go into how are we actually created. So I would go into studying the scientific part of cells and fetus and how our body is forming inside our mother's wombs. So I was always interested in this idea of where does life come from? And that's what I was pretty much investigating, like, why are we floating in this rock in space? It's insane. And the type of artwork that I do nowadays started after a trip my sister and I took to visit my father in the jungle. My sister invited me to a temazcal, and I had never sat down in ceremony before. So I was around 18 at the time, and I remember we were sitting down in ceremony, and when the shaman was telling us that it was time for us to ask for an intention for our lives, I always remember that precise moment, because I asked and I said, I told Great Spirit, the universe, or this great force, however each of us wants to call it, I asked Great Spirit to please show me my medicine, because I felt ready for it. And right after that Temazcal ceremony is that I started making all these little dots and eyes inside my sketchbooks. And of course, at the time, I had no idea what they meant. I didn't put any meaning behind them. I was just going with the flow and falling even more deeply in love with how intuition and our ability to listen start creating a whole new world for us. And that's when the type of artwork that I do nowadays started.
Okay, there's a lot to ask in that one sentence. People who don't know, a temazcal is a sweat lodge. And
Yes.
Do you drink a plant medicine during that? Or do you smoke something? Yeah.
No, there's no ingestion of plants, but there are a few very hot rocks, and they're special rocks. They're called like the abuelito stones, so like the grandfather stones. They have been blessed. They're stones that have been like pretty loved for a lot of time. And these hot rocks are smudged with medicinal herbs. So you're ingesting the herbs by smelling them. You're not drinking anything or smoking anything. It's just, and it's not anything psychedelic. It's more of a, like what we do with cacao. It's like these plants that are helping us tune into more of our own intuition and break those barriers that we put within ourselves, but it's not a psychedelic experience.
Yeah. And clearly something about that experience activated something in you that needed to come out. So the reason why I love your art is because it is, and you've never told me this, and I didn't read it anywhere in your website, but it seems to me that your art is channeled, not, you're obviously doing the work, but you're receiving something from spirit or your ancestors, and you're putting that into creation. Can you talk to us more about that, your process?
Yes, I definitely consider my art to be channeled art or downloads, or some other people also refer to it as visionary art. And one of the main things that I love creating this way is because I didn't even know this was a way of creating art. I didn't hear about visionary art, but I was already making this type of visionary art without even knowing it was a thing. I also didn't know anything about the meaning behind mandalas being a meditative tool. And I started creating this mandalic looking artwork. And little by little, I started seeing on my work, because of course I would finish a piece. I didn't even plan it, didn't know where it was coming from. I just felt this deep meditative state whenever I created them. And I felt that, I'm talking about around 2011 and 2014. That's when everything really started to show up. And I realized that sitting down, it was my own self-ceremony, and I started healing myself and seeing parts of myself that I had never seen, like wounds from childhood, or I started understanding why my parents acted the way that they did when I was younger. So it was pretty much a psychedelic experience just by painting. And at the time, actually, I wasn't painting, I was only drawing. And one of the main reasons that I was able to keep on pursuing this is because I didn't feel it was coming from me. So the responsibility of being good, quote unquote, didn't really land on me. The only thing that I felt I had to do is be as a clean vessel as possible.
Yes.
And that's when I started realizing that, yes, we can be vessels for all the information, for all the experiences, for everything that we are invoking in our lives. And it was just such a magical beginning for all of it. And throughout the years, I've kept on developing this practice, not only in the art making. I feel the art part of my work has evolved visually a lot, but I started really realizing that these messages are coming for me in a special way for a reason. And my responsibility is to show up and show up as a clean or clear vessel as I can. And yeah, I don't know if I'm going off topic. I can just talk forever.
Oh no, no. What you're saying is just it. I whenever you know what they say when you get goosebumps,
Mm-hmm.
like your spirit is acknowledging something. That's
Yes.
what I'm getting right now. Because I work the same way. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I need to get out of my own way
Mm-hmm.
and just be the clear neutral channel for the messages to come through, for the energy healing to come through. Like it's not about me, and I realized
Exactly.
that too recently. So I would love to know, like, what is your actual process? Like you do your rituals, which I'd love to hear about, and then do you just like put your pen on the or your brush to the canvas and you just wait?
So actually, it all started when I started realizing that whenever I felt out of myself, like angry or with just an odd feeling, and I would sit down to work, I realized that, I do a lot of dots, continuous dots,
Mm-hmm.
and they usually have, even though I'm not measuring, but they usually have the same space in between each of them. And it becomes this very like geometric pattern. And whenever I started working feeling like off in a funk, that pattern wouldn't exist. So I started realizing, I'm only able to create when I'm feeling centered and balanced.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when my daily rituals started. And what they change within time, but what is the core of it is movement, be it yoga or working out,
Mm-hmm.
breathing, so meditating, and having some sort of connection with nature. So what I do nowadays is I wake up pretty early. I wake around 4 a.m. And of course, I don't do this 7 days a week. I do it like 4 or 5. But I
Amazing.
usually wake up early. I love just how silent the morning is. And my partner wakes up later than I do, so it's my me time, and I get to do my yoga flow. And I've been stepping into doing my own flow instead of following classes, which I've been loving lately. And I get some time to meditate. I have a bunch of plants in my apartment, so I also take care of them. I water them, clean them. So it's just a moment to pause, because by nature I'm pretty hyper and I'm like ready to go and I have all this energy with me. So having that pause in order not to get into my own head so much and come back to the heart space. And journaling has also been such a great tool for that. And usually after doing all of this, having some food and breakfast or cacao, usually, yes, when I'm ready to start working, I sit down, I put music or an audiobook or a podcast or something that will get me in the groove. And I start working from the center of the paper out. And I usually don't plan how a painting will look at the end. It's just I start in the middle. I work on what I consider to be an orbit.
Mm-hmm.
I finish that one. And while I'm working on that one, I get informed of what to do on the next one.
Yeah.
And then the next one. So that's how it works. Usually I'm working in 2 or 3, and then I don't know where it will go. And that's the magic of the rituals around creativity. And I get that sometimes lots of us can feel blocked creatively. And I believe that that comes from feeling blocked in our own bodies and with our own spirits as well. So every time that I feel creatively blocked, I know that it's either time to take a step back, connect with nature, or see what's coming up for me, and if there's something spiritual or physical that I need to pay attention to. And usually working in those things is what makes me able to step back into painting.
Mm. So one of your paintings is behind you, right?
Yes.
So Caro and I are collaborating together, and she offered me either money or a painting or a drawing, and I was like, your artwork, because I feel like it's so special. I can't actually, I looked at your website and it's just every single piece is so special. I'm like, how the heck do we pick? I can't wait to put it here so that like when when I'm on Zoom or something, so people could see it. This is waiting for you.
I love it.
I want to talk to you about each of your pieces after this, but I loved what we were talking about right before we got on here, which I didn't hit record, which I would love to talk about is part of your background. Like, you're from Peru, you have these like ancestral roots. Like, how does that play into your art, and what message do you want to spread out to the world about your ancestors?
It's pretty interesting because just the same thing that I was telling you about that happened to me with not knowing about visionary artists. I started creating this pattern mandalic looking artwork, and within time I realized that they look so similar to Shipibo art, which is pretty well known worldwide. And Shipibo art is from where my family comes from. And that for me is such a magical treat because they are pretty much visual Icaros. So it's pretty much visual medicine. And that's how I relate my artwork to it. I feel what I'm creating is also a healing visual piece for myself and for others. And at the same time, something that I have been drawn a lot to is the Amazonic cosmovision, where my ancestors believed, and I do as well, that we all living beings are connected. Yes. And the only reason why we are divided in smaller organisms is because we need to balance ourselves. And that's where, I don't know if you've heard about the biophilia hypothesis. It's pretty much talking about symbiosis and how each animal or plant or element is helping the other complete its life cycle. Yeah. So that's what my artwork is about. And that's the other part of it that I haven't talked about yet, is that, yes, all these abstract visions come to me, but within time, I've been falling in love more, not only with the spiritual world, but also with the physical world. And we don't even know if there's any other planet that has the same species as we do here and how we work here. And for me, it's so fascinating how our bodies know what to do without us having to consciously think about it. And something that I've started incorporating in my work within the last 2 years is more of a scientific approach. So I've been doing a lot of research in biology. I was actually looking at RISD as well because they have an amazing scientific illustration program.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And yeah, I've been doing a lot of research. I've taken a bunch of classes in SVA. School of Visual Arts is one of the few, if not the only school in the world that has a bio lab for visual artists.
That is so cool.
And that is amazing because before knowing about this, I felt very drawn into studying biology, but at the same time, I didn't want to be studying for a painting when next to me there's someone discovering the cure for Ebola, you know? So having these facilities for artists is such an amazing treat. And the courses that I've taken there are focused on microbiology, and just seeing how all the geometric patterns repeat throughout nature only with scale variance is amazing. It just blows my mind. And that's pretty much the reason why my husband and I live in New York. It's because my dream is to be able to spread the message for people to fall in love back with nature. I feel when we love something, we take care of it. And if we fall back in love with ourselves, thus we understand ourselves as an extension of nature, we start falling back in love with nature again. And we start taking care of it. And part of the journey of my life journey has been falling in love with nature and wanting to take care of it, and not only do it through my artwork and spreading this message, but also I've started questioning myself, what am I buying? Who is the company that I'm buying for? What are the ingredients on everything that I use? And it's so amazing how we are so empowered as customers. We can choose to vote with every dollar that we spend, and that's such a treat that we get.
Yes, I could not agree with you more and everything that you said. You also have like a sustainability arm of your website, which I love. I like you said in the beginning, we are nature. We have all of those elements within our body. So it really starts with us and taking care of ourselves so we could take care of the planet. That like really resonated with me, and I could feel that your art is almost like an activation. I can't explain that into words properly, because when I saw it, it was something awakened in me, like I said, and I think it's to remind people of the natural world and the cosmos within themselves. If that makes sense.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I love that, like I said before, when we press record, that, you know, you are a diverse woman of color, and that for me, you're changing the landscape of spirituality and what that looks like. And also showing young women and men that you can be an artist and be living in New York City and successful.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about that?
Yes. So when I was mentioning about loving ourselves, I think, and I feel this is such an important part of my personal journey, because growing up, I was so doubtful of myself and insecure, and, you know, I was always depressed, and I thought I could not achieve anything. And I believe that, of course, the journey to change that was my own to do. It was no one else's journey to live for me. But at the same time, I believe that the younger generations would be able to believe in themselves more if they see people that look like themselves doing the things they want to do. Yes. And there's a conversation in between Emma Watson and Rupi Kaur, who is this amazing poet from India. Have you heard that conversation in between them?
I haven't, but I love.
Oh my God. Poetry. It's such a treat hearing them both, because Rupi opens up in this conversation and talks about how when she was growing up, she didn't look at herself in the mirror, not even when she showered, and went to the bathroom to shower for 2 years because she was ashamed of how she looked. And as sad as that sounds, I can relate. I felt exactly the same way. And I feel that part of our job as grown-up women nowadays is tell our stories and share with the younger generations that it's totally beautiful to look the way you do. And I don't know, I feel that sometimes like propaganda is just hidden the opposite way. I cannot even think how a nightmare it could have been to grow up in the Instagram generation, where everyone is just photoshopping themselves and you feel you're the ugly one and everyone else is amazing. So I think it's pretty important to talk about these things, not only for the younger generations, but for ourselves. And of course, I would love to be able to speak directly to women of color, Peruvian women of color. But if there's anyone else that can see my message and feel related and feel empowered. That's the main reason why I'm not only sharing my artwork with the world, but I'm also sharing my life, and I'm sharing videos talking about it. And I'm engaged in social media because I believe that these platforms can be used for such positive tools.
Yes, exactly. I'm curious, how long does it take you to make a painting?
It really changes a lot. Um, and I know because usually I forget to measure because I'm working on several things at the same time. But once I was working on this project, it was 5 paintings. Each of them measured 30 by 30 inches. And one of them I did in 4 days, beginning to start, no retouches, like ready to go. And then another one the same size took me a month and a half.
Wow.
So it really varies a lot. And I believe it does, just by what I was telling you earlier, that is, I believe it depends a lot on how in tune I am with myself and with the creative process as well. Because also as a freelancer, we can get in our own heads and get trapped in the idea of how am I going to pay rent next month, and all this like chattering voices can appear. But knowing how to rebalance ourselves and regain trust on that this intuitive feeling is still here, it's still burning and vibing, I believe it has something to do with it for sure.
Yeah, because I was actually going to ask you, like, you live in New York City, which is pretty expensive, and your livelihood is based on how much you can create. So
Right.
how do you find that balance of, you know, being motivated to create and but slowing down enough where it comes through?
I think what helps me in that sense is having different types of projects that I work on. So let's say the painting that I have behind me, this is a personal project that I'm working on, and no one is rushing me to finish it at a certain time. And I'm really devoting hours and hours to this one. I'm going to send you some pictures of the teeny tiny details it has. But then again, I'm also working on other things, some paintings that I can do faster. I also do prints out of my artwork. I do videos. So I have things that I can work on and have them out sooner. And then I have projects that are my own, and they just take me forever, and it's totally fine. And one of the things that really helps me to slow down is knowing excuse me. One of the things that really helps me to slow down again is knowing that whenever I'm able to slow down, I'm actually able to create more and better once I get back.
Yeah.
And that's easier said than done, for sure. But it's totally true, though. If I take a day off, especially now that we're getting these beautiful spring days, to just be out and get a little sun, it's beautiful to come back to work. I'm more energized and I'm more inspired, and it just flows even more. So it's counterintuitive, but at the same time, it makes so much sense. Slowing down helps you be better.
I forgot to ask, when you get the downloads, are they shown to you in images or words?
Usually it's not images. I've had very few that have been visual downloads that I get, or visual visualizations. Usually it's more of a feeling, and it's more of this unspoken dialogue. So it's more of a different kind of dialogue that I cannot put either in words or in visions, or sometimes it's just this feeling and I get like the colors that I want to work with, or the, let's say, just shapes. So let's say circles and like a Fibonacci kind of spiral. But of course, I've had a lot of visual journeys, most of them with plant medicine.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I've surrendered to the fact that I can't bring those back with me,
Mm-hmm.
because every time that I've tried, it's tricky, because every time that I've been journeying with a plant medicine and I get this amazing visual sensation, either I'm thinking about the painting that I'm going to create while I'm journeying, which is completely, it doesn't make any sense. I'm there to actually heal, not to come up with my next painting. And then whenever let's say I was journeying with plant medicine one night, and then the next day I want to paint it, it doesn't come the way that I see it. So I've surrendered to the fact that those are just there to be there. And some other artists can be perfect visionary artists that do downloads, like let's say Alex Gray, for
Mm-hmm.
me, does an amazing job in bringing
Yes.
visual downloads to life. I'm not there. I don't know. I feel that my connection goes in a different way. But it's also beautiful every time that I've tried to replicate an experience that I had. It doesn't look the same, but it comes out in my own language. And I love that about those.
Yeah, that is so interesting. It's whenever I've done plant medicine, it is really hard to replicate that experience in physical form. I definitely can agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're working on some stuff now. Would you like to share, or is it not ready yet?
Yes. So last year, actually, before being a full-time artist, I was bartending for the first 5 or 6 years that I lived in the city. And last year, as soon as I had my last bartending shift, next day I started the painting that's behind me. It's going to be a year old pretty
Wow.
soon. And this painting is about all the eukaryotic organisms in planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much all living organisms, but bacteria and viruses.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all plants, animals, fungi, and protists.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started working on the fungi section, I realized that I don't really know a lot of information on their evolution process.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because there's not enough information out there. You know, their bodies disintegrate, and there's not a lot of fossils
Mm-hmm.
worldwide. So I paused this painting behind me and I started working on one to focus just on fungi.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm working on the mandalic shape of it, but starting from the oldest known fungi to the youngest known fungi.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been so interesting because there's so much to know about the fungi that we really don't know about them. A lot of people think they're part of the plant kingdom. And I used to be one of those as well, but I just love how amazing they are. They have so many medicinal properties. They look like this weird aliens on
Yes.
the soil. And yes, the projects that I'm diving on now are the in-between scientific look of living organisms and what I consider to be this energy that flows through all of us living creatures. That is what gives us this conscious life. And yeah, I'm working on the fungi kingdom, on the eukaryotic kingdom. 2 years ago, I finished the evolution of plants painting. And my longest dream is to be able to just share this. I would love to be able to travel, let's say, back home to Peru, to the jungle, to share with communities, especially with kids. I would love to be able to go to the jungle in Peru and do like little hike trips with kids to collect plants, look at them under the microscope, and then paint them, because I feel there's such an amazing underworld in the microscopic look of things that we don't see with on our daily lives,
Yeah.
that really shows us just in one image that everything is full of magic. And I would love to be able to reconnect kids with that idea.
It's beautiful. And you're working on a course.
Yes.
That's what I was
Thank
that's
you.
what I was like trying to get.
It's so funny though, because I've only been working on the course for the past 3 weeks. I haven't been painting at all because I've been focusing on the course, but I believe my body is just tickling to paint that I'm only focusing on talking about painting. Yes, I've come to realize that most of the people that reach out to me are reaching out because they want to thank me, because thanks to seeing a video or a post or something that I put out in the world, they've started to reconnect back with their creativity. So it's either those kind of messages or people telling me that they feel their creative flow has been blocked and they don't really know how to start and reconnect with their creative flow back again.
Yeah.
And last year I started giving workshops, not only focusing on how to make art from the theoretical point of view, so teaching about the color wheel and how to use your art supplies, but I also started doing workshops about the rituals around creativity.
Yeah.
Because really rituals around creativity are what has made me and what makes my art. I believe that if I would have never stepped into that temazcal with my sister, and I would have never experienced the connection in between ceremony and art creating, I wouldn't be here talking to you today. I probably wouldn't be living in New York doing this. And who knows what I would be doing with my life. But rituals around creativity are my bread and butter. They are the reason why I live. And I deeply believe that this balance in between reconnecting with ourselves and with our feelings is what gets our creative flow coming up again. So this course, which I'm so stoked about, is about that. It's about how to step back into our creativity, and it's going to be 12 different ritual activities. You're going to be leading one of those, and I'm so excited for that. And then the others are going to be 12 art activities, and it's just going to be so magical. I'm so honored to have you and have other 6 medicine women lead their ritual courses. I will be leading the other 5, and then the art activities are going to be just amazing. I've been taking the course myself throughout these 3 weeks, doing each and every exercise, and I feel it's like potent, my creativity. I'm just ready to finish it, put it out in the world, and keep on creating. I'm just stoked to share this offering with the world and with whoever needs and feels it's time to reconnect with that aspect in our lives. And it doesn't need to be for someone who wants to be a full-time artist necessarily. It can be for anyone. I feel that art is this language that doesn't have words, but it's so powerful in so many different levels. I just can't wait to see how it starts making magic out in the world.
Yeah. When do you think that will be available?
I think before the end of the month for sure.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you would like to share?
I don't know. I think we covered it all. Well, something that has really been like potenting me and this journey lately has been cacao, and also not only cacao, but also the opportunity to share it with community virtually. I feel that lockdown has bring new opportunities for all of us, and maybe we wouldn't be connecting if we knew we could just see each other tomorrow, you know? So I'm so grateful for having the opportunity to connect with a worldwide community of like-minded people. It's amazing. I feel sometimes we just take it for granted. I was thinking a couple of weeks ago, what if we would be in lockdown without internet? Like, let's say this happened 20 years ago.
Yeah.
it would definitely be a whole other experience, but it's so amazing that we still get to connect and use the internet for more than just send memes. You know, I'm so excited to see that I can feel you and I can feel your energy through a screen, and I never thought that was possible.
I know, and I think it really took, I shared my journey of Instagram and social media from the last year. It really took me being in alignment with myself so that I feel worthy and confident that what I'm putting out there is for the betterment of humanity and not just for my own ego, like that own like follower and like that dopamine hit. It's not just for that, but it's for the energy of sending love and inspiration and sharing stories about other people. So thank you so much for saying that, because it was an intentional switch for me.
Mm-hmm. Definitely for me too. And I actually talked about this on Ksenia's podcast, Woke and Wired.
Oh, I love her.
I love her too. We recorded a couple weeks ago, and I was telling her that whenever I did that switch myself into seeing social media as this beautiful conscious tool that we can use, actually I made this friend Sally Mustang through social media, and Sally was the one that invited me to my first cacao ceremony, and that's where I met Flo, and that's where I met Ksenia, and cacao has just been like popping over and over and over in my life for the past 2 years. And maybe if I wouldn't have opened myself to get to meet new people through social media, we would have not met ourselves.
No.
So it's so interesting whenever we start seeing it as this tool that is available for creating conscious community. It's just, I love it.
It's limitless.
Yeah, exactly. It's the energy that we put on it that it will carry, not an energy that already comes with it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, we have to go to our cacao circle. I just wanted to thank you so much again, sister. It's been so lovely seeing your beautiful face every morning. Even though I don't get to talk to you all the time, I see your face and I see your art, and I know we'll meet in person, and I'm so excited for our co-creation in the future. So I will link all of your information in the show notes, but is there anything else you would like us to know, where to find you?
No, I think everything will be linked up on my website, including the Rituals Around Creativity course. If this is something you are interested in joining, just hit that link and you'll see our magic there. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a treat.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Sending much love.